Should the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, be subpoenaed to appear before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee investigating the allegations that he made of corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system? Well, the committee has decided that it won't subpoena him. Instead, it will wait for him to appear before the Madlanga Commission first and then come to the committee. Remember, Mkhwanazi is currently consulting with the evidence leaders from the Madlanga Commission ahead of its anticipated start on the 17th of September. He has since told the parliamentary inquiry that the Madlanga Commission has locked him in until the 24th of September, which then means he would only be available to the committee after that date. But the EFF leader, Julius Malema, is unhappy about this. And I get the point that he makes. I don't entirely agree that General Mkhwanazi must be subpoenaed. I mean, because he's not refusing to appear before Parliament, right? He has just been locked until the 24th by the Madlanga inquiry. And he says, well, I can come afterwards. And he was also booked first by the Madlanga inquiry. I mean, if the committee really wanted him first, they should have established this ad hoc committee quickly and asked him to appear. But here's where I agree with Julius Malema. And before I say that, take a listen to what he said in Parliament yesterday.
I don't understand why would someone say the commission has already subpoenaed General Mkhwanazi, therefore we can't subpoena, we must not subpoena because it's undesirable, but it's desirable for other people to subpoena. It's irrational, it's unreasonable. So the reality is that, and I'm doing this deliberately because I know you are scared for Mkhwanazi to come and appear before that committee. And if it was of your own making, Mkhwanazi was not going to appear before that committee. So you are playing with the public. You established a committee, creating an impression that you are doing something when you are doing nothing. You are busy over nothing. So the reality of the situation is that you don't want Mkhwanazi. And even when that time comes, you are going to start other excuses. There is nothing that stops Mkhwanazi from coming to us. You have now created an impression that this commission is bigger than us. And we as Parliament must be going to the commission. The commission people never say, let's go to Parliament to hear what that Parliament is saying.
Yeah, you're creating an impression that this commission is bigger than us. And that's a debate I want us to have this morning. Which of these two inquiries needs to take precedence? So there's a bigger question here about which inquiry is more important in the context of accountability and in the context of who has the authority and the power to hold public officials accountable. Just hear me for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to go to your calls and WhatsApps and hear what you think. I want to argue that the parliamentary inquiry should take precedence. It shouldn't be seen as junior or inferior to the Madlanga Commission. One, because it's Parliament that's constitutionally obligated to hold the executive and these public officials accountable, not the Madlanga Commission. In fact, the commission only exists to probe further and to hold public hearings and investigate and make mere recommendations to the president. All commissions don't have the powers to make binding recommendations. Remember what Advocate Matthew Chuckleson, senior counsel, said, who is one of the evidence leaders of the Madlanga inquiry?
The question was, are our findings binding? And there the law is clear, our findings are not binding. All that we can do is make a recommendation to the President. Our recommendation doesn't bind the President, it doesn't bind the people in respect of whom we make those recommendations or make those findings.
So, the Madlanga Commission's findings are not binding, and it can only make recommendations to the President, who is not even forced to implement them. Any other commission doesn't make binding recommendations. So, if the President doesn't implement the recommendations of the commission, he hasn't broken the law. But Parliament, on the other hand, has no choice but to vote on a report that comes out of the Ad Hoc Committee and also implement it. And if it votes against an Ad Hoc Committee report, like it did with the Phala report, even though there was an independent panel commissioned by Parliament that found that there's prima facie evidence of impeachment against the president, you can still take that to court. I mean, none of us can take the president to court now for not implementing some of the State Capture Commission recommendations, can you? But if Parliament comes out with a report and there is a party in Parliament that feels that the decision of the National Assembly was not rational, they can go to court. And that's why the EFF, for instance, has gone to court on the Phala Phala report, even though it was from an independent panel commissioned by Parliament. And that's, of course, slightly different because the report, as I say, it's from an independent panel and not from an ad hoc committee. But the point is, there are many other committees. I mean, there's been investigations or inquiries on the SABC. I think scope is going to start rough. There's been ones on ESCOM. I can go on and on. But the point is, the decisions of Parliament can be challenged. Whether they vote, the parliamentarians vote in support of or against that report, that must still be a rational decision. So again, I ask, if that is really the case, if there are more chances of there being accountability through a parliamentary process rather than a commission of inquiry, why then are we not saying Mkhwanazi must prioritize the parliamentary inquiry? I think what takes precedence here should be the parliamentary inquiry, especially in the context of ensuring accountability. How do you see it? What are your thoughts? And of course, something to consider here is that politicians are not really in the search of truth, right? What makes the Madlanga Commission, I suppose, good in this sense is that they've got experienced lawyers. They get to the bottom of the truth. But what happens at the end? They release a report and the president can decide whether to implement those recommendations or not. Whereas with Parliament, it's tricky. If they decide not to, you and I or any other party out there, especially those in Parliament, can go and challenge that decision.